Hey, Gavex here. So I want to go through all the updates to the game from the beta feedback. There was a developer stream this morning, and they went through a few things. I don't think the game is going to be significantly different, but they kind of squashed a few bugs, answered a few questions that we had. Of course, this is no MUT stuff. They did mention a little bit about MUT, so we'll get through that right at the top here. One of the developers talked about how you'll be able to put on any abilities and X Factor abilities on players that you have in your MUT squads, so people will have like different Hopkins is out there, so it's a lot different than the beta, which is one of my biggest complaints about the beta, is that they have us testing this thing on like reg rosters, and that's not how a lot of us are going to play the game. A majority of us are going to be on MUT. Of course, it's not like a MUT centric world. Some reg stuff will happen, but I kind of miss the feature of not being able to, test them both out. Maybe give us last year's cards on next year's game, like MLB The Show does for their alpha. So it's strange that Madden still has us playing regs when that's not what their MUT needs to be balanced around. But so that's the one MUT kind of news that we got ish. We kind of knew that already though with archetypes and you being able to place abilities and X factors on players. But let's go into the rest of the feedback that they talked about. So a bit of franchise stuff with Moonlight Swami, talked about rating spread, stuff we already kind of knew. How to put abilities and superstar abilities on your players and franchise, and that choice that you'll have, the fog of war that you'll have for getting players and their overalls. But gameplay, I think, is the most important stuff, and I'm going to go through that right now. So my name is Perd Hapley, and let's talk about that right now. Block and release, that didn't make any sense. Block and release hot route for tight end. So if you guys have ever seen a block and release hot route, it's kind of like the blue stuff where they block for a second and then go out. So now in 20, what's nice about it is that they block for a little bit. Then if you want them to release early, you press their receiver icon button, which is a really cool kind of customizable thing. Kind of like give you more control over it. Although it's kind of like a psychic link, and you know how much I hate psychic links on Playmaker. But we'll see how it plays out. I don't know if it'll be overpowered or not, but we'll test it, of course. So this is really nice to kind of help with the edge rush. The problem with Madden traditionally has been is, say when you have a blocking tight end and it's a 4-man rush, the left or right tackle decide to like just abandon the tight end. Like, all right, you got Khalil Mack on your own, right? So like all of a sudden you have it's one-on-one tight end versus the best pass rusher in the league, and you're like, okay, why isn't he getting double teamed? And then you release him, and then all of a sudden you got a free run on your quarterback. And it's like, okay, maybe you can pop it over them quick, but that's like really not how the play is supposed to be designed. So oftentimes blocking the tight end against a 4-man route or 4-man pass rush is actually way worse than not blocking it. So that I'm a little concerned with how they balance that with a pass rush. So I hope the tackles actually key on the defensive ends, and it kind of causes a double team there to kind of get like an edge seal to kind of help fight those Macs of the world. So with that, Clint also did mention that there will be a timer on that, so you can't just drop 50 yards back, then release them, and then just throw it off the back foot or whatever, like you could in 19. So it'll be like a 3 to 5 second release for that tight end just to go out on his own too. So I don't know if they must have seen something for balance purpose to keep that in the game. There's also controller changes. So the D-line and linebacker hot routes have changed. So as you see on the screen now, the controller changes are in the game. The play art versus X Factor vision is different. The play art has moved from the right trigger to the left trigger. So that's something they will have to get used to. They wanted to basically show what kind of X factors are on the field at once, what kind of abilities are on the field. So it's the X Factor vision, like I talked about in MUT at the top, being able to like choose your abilities. An X Factor allows kind of a lot of customization. People don't know what's out there. So this is one way that they're kind of showing it. I don't know. I probably would have left play art on right trigger and just gone the X Factor vision on left trigger, but they decided to switch it up on us. I don't think it's anything that we're not going to get comfortable with pretty early. They also changed the left bumper and right bumper. Though it used to be defensive line linebackers, they took it off there. It's now only on the D-pad. It's only on the defensive line left and right D-pad, as you see there, kind of near the bottom left of your screen. Again, sure, it's fine. We'll get used to it. Defensive keys, is that I believe that's run fit, right? Last year run fit used to be left trigger, so they moved that to left bumper. It was left trigger, right and left on the right thumbstick, I believe, to see the run fit. So defensive key, I believe, is the run fits, but I don't. They didn't answer that, I don't believe. But it's a change. It's different, but as long as the buttons aren't changing from play to play like they were in 19, I think we can get used to it. So if they could keep that consistent, then I'm fine. I'm fine. But the inconsistencies in Madden is what really chaps my ass, as they say in the West. Pass rush is unchanged. So are passing and throw animations. So pass rush being unchanged is fine. Like my biggest complaint was the Pro Bowl and new players going into the Pro Bowl right away and getting hit within 2 seconds. So they said they take out a little bit of that issue, a little pass rush in the Pro Bowl right away, which in the long game doesn't really do anything. But for new players, which we all have to be, we have to all consider new players. That first feel of Madden, that's a really bad experience. So I'm glad that they changed that, at least the Pro Bowl. But for the rest of the game, the pass rush is unchanged, which is fine. I mean, I'm good with a good pass rush. It's just like my biggest issues, like if a game is unbalanced, right? Because it's so easy to blitz people or get a good pass rush and cover the low part of the field with a good user. Like if you play against trash users, you don't really notice it. But if you play against god tier players, like I've played some like high end competitive players, their users are amazing. So the ability to kind of like get home to the passer in a couple seconds, basically, and user a whole like swath of the field, makes like an unbalanced gameplay in my opinion. But with an increase to the pass rush, with a little nerf to the user, with a little bit of nerf to zones. Zones did not play well in the beta, but I think that's just because we had low zone players. We'll see how the game plays out going forward, because we've got a lot more offensive weapons now too, so I'm not that concerned about balance. I think the pass rush is going to be good this year. I'm kind of excited for it. The only downside is the passing animation's taking too long, because we all know like quarterbacks would wind up. Like it would take them like what, 20 frames to wind up and throw the ball at 60 frames per second, and the pass rush would get home in that time period, even for short throws. Where you look in the NFL, you look at Tom Brady throwing a ball under 40 yards, and it's like out of his hands like a snap. Like Dan Marino with his famous quick release, and so many other top end quarterbacks look at that quick release due to the pass rush. So not having that quick release is kind of a pain in the ass, and it's due to like throwing to the sidelines. I had a little talk on Twitter with Moonlight Swami about that. So sideline throws to beat the blitz, beat the rush are going to be pretty tough to execute this year, but we'll see how in the overall balance of the game that plays out, because it could be, this all could be for naught, like our issues, and the pass rush could be fine once we get our competent offensive lineman there. Corners and post routes will get a bit better separation versus man, so they did touch man a little bit. I know some people were really loving man in the beta, but I don't know how corners and post routes are going to play in the game. Again, you know, it's all based off stats and stuff. So, like, the high-end route runners, the Chris Carters, Fitzgeralds, those type of guys will get a little bit more separation, as it should be against man, than maybe, like, low-end route runners. Maybe just, like, because this, in the beta for 20, crossing patterns got locked down by man. We'll see if, like, crossing patterns considered a quote-unquote post by EA. It's technically not IRL, but we'll see, because the cut is going inside like a post route cut. We'll see if that gets separation versus man, and it's going to be another crossing route year. But if not, not a big deal. Crossing routes, they were overpowered last year, so if man locks them down, that's fine. But corners and posts will beat man coverage, so it's not going to be a go-to end-all type of coverage if you have like Deion Sanders on your team. So they also buffed man a little bit. So like route breaks right after a press animation, like out routes, in routes, that kind of stuff, the DB will stick to them a little bit better, according to Clint. So that's still to come. Zone coverages did not get changed at all. Those weren't touched. Again, we didn't have high zone players out on the field. Some of the better players didn't even have like high up on the I don't know, threshold area. I didn't edit any rosters to test it out myself, so that's still to be determined if zone later in the year is going to be confident, because early on I think people are going to complain about it, but that's just due to low zone coverage on a lot of our players. So that I'm fine staying the same, especially with an increased pass rush. We don't need zones that are psychic like 18 right off the bat. So pass leads got tuned also, because there were some bugs with the pass lead ability. The Tom Brady and Drew Brees, I believe, had the pass lead abilities, and they basically made it so that they just like missed the receivers if you ever pass lead on like inside outside kind of stuff. So nerfing the top end quarterbacks because of a bug is wrong, and I'm glad they fixed it, because yeah, I don't know if that even needs a reason, right? Do I need to say why bugs and like top end players that have special abilities for pass leads not working well is bad? I don't feel like I need to justify that. So RPOs are going to trigger downfield penalties like they should. Clint said it was on arcade mode during one of their presentations, so it didn't trigger downfield penalty. So that's going to be fixed for competitive simulation. RPOs basically they're going to be good, but how good they are is going to be how quickly you have to get the ball out of the hands, right? Because a lot of Madden players are kind of like psychic, not human players, but computer players. Like between their warps and their ability to like kind of just recognize shit going behind them, we'll see what ends up happening with RPOs because they have to be so quick. I worry that just like a warp and then a SWAT animation is going to take it out, and they're like, okay, well, my stretch edge lookie is no longer good because the one guy can cover two different concepts, and it's like, oh, this kind of sucks now. So RPOs, it's going to be a fine balancing act for them. I worry they're going to be a little underwhelming at first, but I'm sure we'll find ours that are super powerful, like I talked about that stretch alert. That one seemed like the best to me in the beta. Next up, Tom Brady's conductor was bugged during the beta. Basically, conductor during the beta allow you to make 4 hot routes before having to like do the QB animation. That's back down to 2. Strange that they put it back down to 2 because I thought I heard somewhere somebody's like, oh, it's supposed to be 4. It's supposed to be great for the top end quarterback. So it is no longer like as like glitchy on that Tom Brady conductor. It's down to 2. So it brings it a little bit more in line with like conductor this year and kind of like other players. It's too bad because I really wanted an OP Tom Brady card. I really wanted somebody that's crazy. And I know with Mutt now, they're kind of nerfing Tom Brady's better skills too, so we won't have it until later in the year. So our early season love of pocket passers could be dead. And we might just go with scrambling quarterbacks early on, and then later on when they catch up with thresholds and stuff, we might be using them again too. So little worrisome for the initial part of Madden, but here's the thing. Quarterback accuracy matters in the initial part of Madden for Madden Ultimate Team because, scrambling quarterbacks like Tyrod Taylor can't hit the broadside of a barn. So it should be okay early. I'll say that. And then patches, finally. They are pre-scheduled and will be about the same number as 19 because they got to work with Xbox and PlayStation to throw out those patches. They said they're going to be more conservative about changes, though. They hit a lot of things in 19. I mean, there was a lot of things to hit in 19, to be fair. But that caused a lot of other issues, the fall forward glitch that we've seen with patches. And the community sometimes blames patches for ruining the game. I'm not on that boat. I know the patches do fuck things up, and they don't fix everything they say they fix. But I, in my opinion, overall, patches are a benefit for the game. Because it's weird to me to hear from the community, they love the game, and they trust the developers to make the game, but then they don't trust the developers to then continue to make the game. It's such a weird thing. Some people want the game to play the exact same way the whole year. I am not that type. I'm not a competitive player that wants to see the same plays work the same way all year. I think that's boring. I think that if the meta it gets stagnant, people will leave this game. It's the exact same thing as other, like Hearthstone or other card games, stuff like that. Like when Hearthstone, even though the game, like maybe there won't be any bugs in certain things, but even when the game gets stale, if it's people running the same decks, the same 2-3 decks dominating, if it's the same 2-3 plays dominating the whole year in Madden, that is just boring. If it's nothing but Pat Sale or Verts or something that's just overpowered in 20, if it's literally that the whole year, the masses will have a huge exodus. Like nobody wants to play that kind of game. Nobody wants that this supposedly chess match of Madden and football boiled down to like 2 plays and then you can't stop it. And I think it's a bad game. So I really hope that the patches do end up not only fixing bugs and not introducing new ones, but ends up keeping the meta fresh. And they said they're going to do that by adding new plays too, which is beneficial to us as players, kind of experiment and try out new things to put in the game. So I'm for that. I'm for meta being updated and refreshed through the year. But I am what you say. I play the game for fun and to enjoy the game, and that's kind of my biggest concern, not necessarily trying to win money off of it. But that is it for the stream breakdown and my opinion on the stream. Nothing too crazy. I don't really have a huge issue with any of the changes they made, but we'll see how it plays on launch in about 7 days, maybe a little bit less if the EA Access goes live, like I think it's going to go live, which will be, I think they said 11 a.m. Eastern or noon Eastern on the 24th. For PC, so that means that might go up there for EA Access a day early too, or 12 hours early. But that's it. Thanks for watching Call to Action. I'll see you tomorrow.